You've done the research, you've looked at the school rankings, you've scrolled Zillow for 3 months. You've watched videos comparing Northbrook versus Glenview versus Deerfield. You feel like you know what you're getting in, and you probably do on paper. But there are things about actually living on Chicago's North Shore that don't show up in any search results. Things that surprise almost every family who moves here, and some of them in the best possible way. Some of them in the I really wish someone had told me kind of way. This video is that conversation. The one you'd have with a friend who's lived here for years and will actually tell you the truth. The Caroline Gow team has been helping families relocate to the North Shore for 24 years. We've had this conversation thousands of times, before the move, during the move, and 6 months after, when clients say, okay, here's what I was not prepared for. This video is built from all of those conversations, so let's get into it. Welcome. If this is your first time here, this channel is called Living in North Shore, Chicago, and it's run by the Caroline Gow team based in Northbrook, Illinois. Our team has 24 years of experience helping buyers and sellers across the North Shore. Northbrook, Glenview, Deerfield, Highland Park, Winnetka, Wilmette, and every suburb. If you're thinking about moving here or you're already in the process, subscribe and hit the bell. New videos drop every week, and they're all built around giving you real, useful information, not fluff. Okay, let's talk about what nobody tells you around the North Shore. There are 8 things the team hears consistently from people who've relocated here. Some are practical, some are more about culture and community, and a few are genuinely counterintuitive, things that challenge what people assume before they arrive. Here they are, one at a time. The first one is about speed. The North Shore market moves faster than almost anyone expects, even people who think they're prepared. When families are searching from out of state or even from Chicago proper, they usually come in with a mental model built on their previous home buying experience. They think they'll have a weekend or two to think things over once they find something they like. Maybe sleep on it, schedule a second showing, run the numbers one more time. That's not how the North Shore works. In markets like Northbrook, Glenview, and Deerfield, well-priced homes, especially in the most sought-after school district, can go from listed on Thursday to under contract by Sunday, sometimes Saturday. The Caroline Gow team has worked with buyers who have moved here from the West Coast and were genuinely shocked. They'd find a home on Friday night, message the team Saturday morning, and by the time they'd arranged a showing on Sunday, it was already gone. That kind of speed requires a completely different mindset. You can't browse casually and then shift into decision mode. You have to be in decision mode before you find the home you want. That means financing is locked up in advance. Your must-haves are clearly defined, and you've already talked through how to evaluate a multiple offer situation before you're in one. This is one of the things the team works with every relocation client before they ever step into a car for showing. Because the worst moment in a buyer's journey is loving a home and losing it because they weren't ready to move. The North Shore rewards preparation. That's the first thing nobody tells you. The second is about property taxes, and this one is genuinely jarring for people moving from other states. Illinois has some of the most highest property taxes in the country, and that's not a secret, but what surprises people isn't just the rate, it's the actual dollar figure when you apply it to the North Shore home prices. If you're buying a $700,000 home in Northbrook, you might be looking at annual property taxes in the range of $12,000 to $16,000 or more. That's not a mistake. That's $1,000 to $1,300 a month on top of your mortgage payment just in taxes. For buyers moving from Texas, Florida, California, or the Southeast, this number is often the biggest sticker shock of the whole process. And it's not just the amount, it's the structure. In Illinois, taxes are assessed by local township, the assessor based on estimated market value. They're billed in 2 installments per year, typically due in March and August in Cook County, and they can change over time, particularly when properties are reassessed every 3 years. There are also exemptions available. There's the general homeowner exemption, the senior exemption, and senior freeze, and others that can reduce your bill if you qualify. But you have to apply for them. They don't apply on your bill automatically. Our team always has this conversation early because the property tax number affects your true monthly cost of ownership in a significant way. It affects how you compare towns, and it affects which price range actually fits your budget when you add everything up. Don't do the math without the taxes. That's the second thing nobody tells you. The third thing is about the commute. and more specifically about the difference between what the commute looks like on paper and what it actually feels like on February morning on a Tuesday. The Metra commuter rail is genuinely excellent by American standards. Northbrook is served by the Milwaukee District North Line, which runs into Union Station in downtown Chicago. Deerfield and Highland Park are on the Union Pacific North Line, which terminates at Ogilvie Transportation Center. Both are major downtown hubs, but they're different stations. And if your office is on one end of downtown versus the other, that actually matters for your daily walk. Depending on where you're coming from, you can often get from Northbrook or Deerfield or Highland Park to downtown Chicago in 35 to 50 minutes. The trains are frequent enough, especially during peak hours, that you don't need to obsess over the schedule the way that might other transit systems. That's the good news. Here's what people don't always factor in. The Metra works best if your job is downtown, in or near the Loop, or close to a Metra stop at the other end. If your job is in Rosemont, Schaumburg, Oak Brook, or anywhere in the suburbs on the other side of the city, you're driving. And suburban to suburban driving on the North Shore means the Edens Expressway, the Tri-State Route 294, Route 41, all of which have their own personalities during rush hour. There's also the walk from the station. If you buy in a walkable downtown area, Deerfield is very convenient. Highland Park is walkable. Northbrook Station has parking nearby. Getting you to the platform isn't an issue. But if your home is 2 or 3 miles from the station, you're adding a drive and parking into your daily routine. None of this is a deal breaker. For families coming from downtown Chicago or the suburbs further south, the North Shore commute often feels like a revelation. But it's worth modeling the actual door-to-door time, not just the train time, before you anchor in on a specific town or neighborhood. And if you're moving here for remote work or a hybrid schedule, which our team sees constantly now, this whole section matters less, but it's still worth understanding because it shapes so much about the community patterns, the train schedules, the school pickup times, and the rhythm of daily life on the North Shore. That's the third thing nobody tells you. The fourth is about community, and this is one of the things that genuinely surprises people in a positive way. The North Shore has a reputation from the outside for being a certain type of place, affluent, private, polished, and yes, home values here are high. The communities are well-resourced, and there's no shortage of nice cars and a school pickup line. But what people who move here often don't expect is how embedded the community actually is, how much people know their neighbors, how much happens at the local level. The block parties, the park district events, and school sports and community theater and downtown festival. That has nothing to do with how expensive the real estate is. Northbrook's 4th of July parade is a real thing. It draws the whole town. So does the farmers market on Wednesday. So do the high school football game. Highland Park has a music and arts culture that runs deep at Ravinia Festival. Deerfield has strong sense of local pride. These aren't just places people buy homes and then commute from. They're communities where people actually show up, participate, and stay. Our team hears this from clients 2 or 3 years after they've moved in. We did not expect to actually know our neighbors. Did not expect to feel this rooted so fast. And that sense of belonging, especially for families with kids, tends to develop faster here than in a lot of places. And when you're doing the research from a distance, you're looking at property values and school ratings and commute time. You can't really feel what it's like to live inside one of these communities until you're here. That's worth naming because it's part of what makes the North Shore different from just about any expensive suburb. That's the fourth thing nobody tells you. The fifth is about school districts, specifically the relationship between school district boundaries and home values, which is more complicated and more consequential than most buyers realize. On the North Shore, school district matters a lot, not in a vague general way, in a very specific block by block way. 2 streets over can mean a different elementary school, a different middle school, and sometimes a different even high school pathway. That difference can be thousands of dollars in home value, all other things being equal. This plays out constantly. The team had it happen on one of their own listings. A buyer made an offer, got a contract, and then they withdrew because the school wasn't what they were expecting it to be. They looked at the neighborhood, seen the surrounding homes, and made an assumption that turned out to be wrong. By the time they verified the actual assignment, they were already in attorney review. The deal fell apart. That's not a minor detail. For families who moved in specifically for a particular school pathway, it can be a complete deal breaker, and it costs everyone time, money, and aggravation. The lesson here is simple but important. Verify the school district assignment for any specific property, not the general area, not the specific address. School district maps are available, but they're not always intuitive. And the lines don't always follow the logic of what looks like one cohesive neighborhood from the street. The other piece of this is that school districts are part of how the team thinks about comps and pricing. You can't fairly compare two homes a half-mile apart if one is in District 27 and one is in District 28 without knowing what that boundary means in that market. It's a hyper-local variable that has a real price effect. If schools are a priority for your move, and for most North Shore families they are, start with the district, then find the homes within it, not the other way around. That's the fifth thing nobody tells you. The sixth is about the cost structure beyond the purchase price. Illinois specifically, and the North Shores, have a set of costs that the first-time Illinois buyers consistently underestimate. Start with attorney fees. Illinois is an attorney review state. That means after a contract is signed, there's a formal attorney review period, typically 5 business days, during which real estate attorneys on both sides review and can modify the contract. It's buyer protected and seller protected, and it's genuinely one of the better consumer protections in the transaction. But it does add a layer of professional fees that buyers coming from states where attorneys aren't standard in residential real estate transactions don't always budget for. Then there's the transfer tax. Illinois has a state-level real estate transfer tax, and many municipalities on the North Shore add a local transfer tax on top of it. The amount varies by town. Some buyers absorb this, and others it's split. It can be a meaningful line item on the closing closure. Title insurance is also structured differently than in some states. In Illinois, the seller typically pays for the owner's title policy, but the buyer pays for the lender's policy. If you're coming from a state where that's done differently, you want to understand how it works here. And then there's the prepaid and escrow setup at close. Prepaid interest, homeowner's insurance, and the initial escrow deposit for property taxes and insurance. On a North Shore home, because the taxes are substantial, the escrow setup at closing can be a larger number than people expect. None of these are surprises if you know to look for them. The team walks through a client from the full closing cost estimate early in the process before they're under contract. So the number at the closing table isn't a shock. But if you're just starting your research, know that your true cost of buying here includes more than down payment plus mortgage payment. That's the sixth thing nobody tells you. The seventh is about winter, and not in a way that's meant to scare anyone off. I love the change of seasons. Just as an honest description of what life on the North Shore looks like from December through March. The North Shore sits along Lake Michigan, and that lake has a real effect on local weather, particularly in winter. Lake effect snow is a thing here. It doesn't hit the North Shore as hard as it hits certain lakefront communities further north or in Indiana, but cold air pulling off the lake in January and February creates conditions that are genuinely more intense than what you'd experience 20 or 30 miles inland. What this means practically, good winter gear is not optional. Snow removal plans for your home matter. Knowing your neighbors helps when a significant storm comes through. And the infrastructure here, the plowing, the salting, the school district decisions on delays and closures, it's built for this. So it doesn't create the kind of chaos it does in a place that gets 1 inch of snow a year. Most people who move here from the south or southwest go through a first winter that tells them a little bit. And then they come out the other side and find that the rhythm of the North Shore in winter has its own quality. The quiet after a snowfall, the holidays and community that goes all in on decorating, ice skating, and sledding, and the kind of cold weather togetherness that has no equivalent in a place where the temperature never really drops. By their second winter, most families have adapted. They have their gear, their routine, and usually at least one story about the year they were genuinely not prepared. That's the seventh thing nobody tells you. The eighth, and this one is maybe the most practical of all, is about the relationship between which town you choose and what your daily life actually looks like. On the surface, the North Shore suburbs can look similar. Nice neighborhood, good schools, similar price points. The day-to-day of life in Northbrook feels genuinely different from life in Winnetka, which is different from Highland Park, which is different from Glenview. Northbrook is more suburban and in character, a lot of family-oriented neighborhoods, strong Park District programming, convenient retail and dining, no Metra walkable downtown for most residents, but strong community infrastructure. It's a place where families plant deep roots and kids grow up with the same group of friends from kindergarten through senior year. Glenview has more mixed residential and commercial character, got a downtown that's very walkable, strong local identity, and slightly more inventory at certain price points that can make it more accessible to buyers stretching a budget. Deerfield is smaller, more intimate with a very charming walkable downtown on Deerfield Road, strong community events, and a layout that makes it feel like a real small town even though it's fully suburban. Highland Park has an arts identity, a lake-facing geography, a more diverse urban community structure, and a downtown on Central Avenue that draws people even from other North Shore towns. It also has some of the most dramatic topography of the whole North Shore. Ravines, bluffs, views that you just don't find elsewhere. Winnetka and Kenilworth are the most affluent communities on the North Shore, with a more formal character and some of the highest price points on the Lake Shore. Families who want estate-level lakefront lifestyle and the tight community of a very small town land here. None of these is better or worse. They're just different, and the family that thrives in Northbrook is not necessarily the same family that would thrive in Winnetka. When the Caroline Gow team works with relocation clients, the town selection conversation happens before the home search, not during it. Because picking the wrong town, even just a great town that isn't the right match for your lifestyle, can mean you love your house but feel slightly off in your community. And that matters. That's the 8th thing nobody tells you. Let's go through all 8 quickly. 1, the market moves fast. Be ready before you find what you want. 2, property taxes are significant. Know your true monthly costs before you set your price range. 3, the commute is great if your job is downtown. Model the actual door-to-door if it's not. 4, the community is more connected than it looks from the outside. People actually stay and participate here. 5, school district lines are hyper-specific. Verify the assignment for the actual address, not just the neighborhood. 6, Illinois closing costs include attorney fees, transfer taxes, and title insurance. Budget for the full picture. 7, winter is real. Plan for it and you'll find it manageable and even beautiful. The towns on the North Shore have distinct personalities. Town selection is part of the process, not an afterthought. When you go into the North Shore moving, knowing all of this, not just the school ratings, but the full picture, you make better decisions. You pick the right town. You're ready to move quickly when the right home pops up. You're not surprised at closing table. And you get here with the right expectation, which means you're set up to actually love it. That's what the Caroline Gow team has been helping families do for 24 years. If you're thinking about a move to the North Shore, whether you're 6 months out or 6 weeks out, our team is a great starting point. The link in the description connects you directly. There's no pressure and no pitch. It's a real conversation about what fits your family, which towns to focus on, what the current market looks like, and what the process is going to feel like from start to close. The Caroline Gow team has 24 years of experience doing exactly this, helping families find not just the right house, but the right community, and that perspective makes a real difference when you're moving to a place that you don't know yet. If this video was useful, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss what comes next. Every week there's something new. Market updates, neighborhood guides, buyer and seller content, all built around giving you real information so you actually use it. Share this one with someone who's thinking about moving to the North Shore. There's always someone in every network who's in the research phase and doesn't know where to start. This is a good place to send them. Bye for now. We'll see you on the next one.